Hey, what's up, everybody? Fred Minnick here. Today, I'm going to reveal the 3 most disappointing American whiskeys of the year for me. Now, before I jump into that, I want to give you an update on my top 100. As you know, I had to take a couple months off of tasting because of surgery on my eyes, and then I also was finishing up my book in the beginning of the year. So if you haven't checked it out already, you can find a link in the description for my new book, Bottom Shelf. I've also got a signing coming up on Talk Shop Live. Make sure you check that out. There's a link in the description to see that. That's going to be on December 5th. Everyone who comes gets like a signed book, or like you have to buy the signed book, obviously, but going to be a fun live stream there on December 5th, or Pill Day. But so I've not had my normal tasting year, so I haven't set my top 100 tasting yet, but the format's going to be quite a bit different this year. I'm going to announce the rankings in the live stream, and then I'll do the live I'll live taste the top 10, maybe top 15. But just there's just not any way. It's not possible for me to taste the amount that I need to on screen this year. For anyone who's ever tuned into my live tastings before, or the top 100, it's very taxing, and it's taxing for the next week. But it's just not possible for me to do that biologically. I'd say I'm getting old, and I can't taste like I used to. That being said, top 100 is not going away. I will have more details on that soon, so stay tuned. But rest assured, these 3 products will not be making that list. And I'll tell you, all 3 of them have a commonality of alcohol forwardness. So when I taste a certain level of alcohol in a bourbon, a rye, scotch, anything, that tells me that the whiskey did not do well in the barrel. It did not age well. There was bad distillation technique, bad fermentation technique. Whatever it may be, it just didn't fit. It wasn't balanced. I never, ever want to taste the flavor of rubbing alcohol. I don't want to taste vodka kind of flavors, like kind of like neutral grain, where you know it's alcohol, but you just, don't get any other flavors other than the alcohol. So these 3 whiskeys have that in common. So there are 2 bourbons and an American single malt. So at I'd say number 3 would be Larceny A125, the barrel strength one. Now listen, Larceny has been on a tear for my palate in the last like 5 years. They have been making my top 100 left and right, and this just isn't the year for them. I think of all the ones I've tasted, I think one of them may really be at a high level, but A125 is not it. That thing tasted like grass and alcohol, like put into a blender, and somebody added sugar to it or something. I don't know. It was awful for me, for my palate. Now here's the thing: it was it's still drinkable. Like, you could put it in a cocktail and you can save it. But for me, that's still very disappointing. Even though it's drinkable and you can make it in a cocktail, I have high hopes for Larceny barrel proof every time I see it. And I think sometimes when you talk about the most disappointing whiskeys, sometimes it's the taster's hopes going into tasting that product too, that can have like a big impact on how one feels. So Larceny A125 did not hit the mark for me. Did it hit it for you? Put it in the comment section if you liked it, or if you didn't like it, or if you haven't had it yet. But I did this tasting in Club Marzipan, my whiskey community over on Patreon, and Larceny A125 was not it. Okay, so next up, we've got Yellowstone 6-year-old small batch. So it's 107 proof. Very similar story to Larceny, in that the flavors did not come through after the alcohol. This is one where I love Yellowstone. Yellowstone's been in my top 100 before. They are part of like the MGP Luxco community. Just absolutely great people. I love Stephen Beam. I love that distillery. I love the people. But the whiskey this year, that 6-year small batch, did not hit it for me. I was not a fan of it at all. And again, it comes to the concentration of alcohol notes in comparison to the actual flavors. And much like I did with Larceny, just to make sure that I didn't have a bad bottle sent to me, it was sitting in a window in my car, whatever. Not that I have bourbon sitting in windows of my car. I mean, it's happened before, but it's not a regular occurrence. Did not happen with this particular bottle. Anyway, my point is, I went and tasted it elsewhere. Like I went to a bar and tasted it, and it was the same flavor. And much like Larceny, it'd be perfectly fine in a cocktail. Like if you were going to dilute the hell out of it, turn it into a punch, or even maybe an old fashioned, hey, that's fantastic. But again, I'm over here as a taster. I'm not here telling you to make cocktails out of things. I'm tasting things poured from the bottle into my glass, put it on my palate, and I break it down. And when I find something that is over alcohol-y, that's going to be a Negatron 3000 100 times of the week and twice on Tuesday. So that one was really disappointing for me, because I'm always rooting for them. And then you could say well, if you're rooting for them so much, why would you put them on there? Well, I think it's because they've had so many bangers for me. Like Yellowstone has done such a great job in the past. I think they would want to know when something is not up to snuff. And that review also was on Club Marzipan. Now, the one that I think is probably the worst whiskey I've tasted all year, and is without a doubt going to be a massive disappointment given the climate of the American single malt, which just became a new law. There's a new law that came out in January that gave American single malt its own federal definition. Huge, by the way, absolutely huge. And so there's now a lot of larger distilleries that are releasing American single malts. So if there is a large distillery that comes out with the American single malt that's coming in at 12 years old, man, I'm going to have high hopes for that. Absolutely high hopes for what Woodford Reserve Single Malt Limited Edition was. I was just really thinking that thing was going to be special, because one, Woodford Reserve has had a great history of putting out good limited edition whiskey. Their batch proof stuff is you could put that up against anything. So you look at Woodford Reserve as hey, this is a distillery. These are blenders at Brown-Forman that know what they're doing. They're doing a great job. So you look at that bottle and you're, man, this is going to be great. And then you put it on your lips and you're like, woo, do not want to taste this again. But as a taster, you taste it multiple times, and then you try to find another bottle to make sure you didn't have a bad sample. And indeed, it was the whiskey, wasn't the bottle. Yeah, so that one, I posted that review here on YouTube. Was just, again, going back to the alcohol note. Going back to that alcohol note, I do not want to taste high concentrations of alcohol. Look, I get it. I'm tasting alcohol for a living, but I'm not, wanting to drink turpentine. I'm not wanting to drink, what do you call it? The rubbing alcohol. You don't want that stuff. No, you don't want to taste those kinds of flavors. So if you have those kinds of notes in any kind of whiskey, just move on. Don't taste it again. So that one is by far the worst thing I've tasted all year. Now, I've got a lot more to taste this year. So who knows? Maybe something will come in and surprise me. But as we are beginning to wrap up the year, the 2025 has been a pretty good year for American whiskey. I went through my reviews in Club Marzipan, and there's a lot of mid 80s to 90 point scores out there, right? I think my highest score of the year has been a Penelope 17-year-old light whiskey, which just, knocked my socks off. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. The irony of that is it comes off distilled at higher proofs. It's going into used barrels, and it's bottled at a super high proof. But you know what I don't taste in it? I don't taste high levels of concentrated alcohol. And that, my friends, is the key difference between something that will make the top 100 list and something that is kind of like a bottom dweller for me, like the ones we just talked about. And it's all about alcohol concentration. How much, if it's over alcohol-y, then it ain't going to make a list. It ain't going to make my list. It can make someone else's, but it sure in the heck ain't making mine. But all of our palates are different, and I'm just one person, and that's important for you to note, because if you love those whiskeys, that's fantastic. Support them, buy them all day long. But I'm not going to be. Just going to be very candid about that. So those are my 3 very much most disappointing whiskeys of the year. What are your most disappointing whiskeys of the year? Put them in the comments, and if you disagree or agree with me in what I chose, go ahead and put that in the comment section too. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you tuning into this channel, and subscribe, like, tell a friend. I'm going to have more coming to you soon, and stay tuned for my top 100, and I hope to see you December 5th on Talk Shop Live with my bottom shelf book signing. Cheers.